When a maid saved a millionaire's son, the truth no doctor could tell. The clock struck midnight, and the atmosphere crackled with curiosity. In a lavish mansion nestled atop the hills of Silver Creek, a chilling scream echoed through the halls, ricocheting off the gold-plated walls. Guests at the party froze, their wine glasses trembling in their hands. Did young Nathan Forrester, the Millionaire'S son, collapse on the marble floor, clutching his chest? Had the whispers about his fragile heart finally become a grim reality? The tension wound tighter, like a noose, around everyone's throats. But there was someone there, someone unexpected, a maid named Rosa, dressed in simple black and white, who darted through the chaos, determination blazing in her eyes. Rosa had always been the quiet one, the invisible helper among the opulence. Yet, it was she who noticed the unusual mark on Nathan's neck moments before he collapsed, an odd, almost unnatural dark bruise in the shape of a hand. What in the world could have caused that? It was a detail that slipped past the doctors, a clue that puzzled the party guests. Did Nathan stumble into a secret? What darkness lurked behind his pristine upbringing? Rosa leaned closer as the crowd buzzed, skepticism and panic mingling in the air. She pressed her ear to his heart, feeling the rapid beats. Fear gripped her like ice. Something was off. Amidst gasps and whispers, Rosa's mind raced. Every instinct screamed at her to save him. She gently shook him, her hands trembling. Nathan, wake up. The chaos swirled around them like a storm. In that moment, everything hung in the balance. What had really happened to him? Nathan's face was pale, glistening with sweat, a vivid contrast to the opulent surroundings. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The crowd gasped again as Rosa made a decision. She reached for her phone, panic bubbling up inside her. Desperate and raw, she thought about what would happen if no one knew what to do. I need help. Someone, please. But her voice was barely a whisper above the wailing sirens approaching. In those frantic seconds, a hint of fear flashed in her eyes. What were they going to find? Was this some twisted family secret? With the echo of those sirens drawing ever closer, and the faces around them growing more frantic, Rosa's heart pounded, catching the weight of a mystery far darker than anyone could imagine. Could it be, was young Nathan the victim of more than just a health crisis? As the door swung open and lights flooded the room, illuminating the stunning chaos, one question remained. What secrets lay hidden within this gilded cage? Rosa felt the air shift as the paramedics burst into the grand hall, their uniforms like flashes of color amid the suffocating whites and golds of the mansion. With quick movements and focused urgency, they navigated through the elegantly dressed guests, who parted like branches at the approach of a storm. Step back. Give him space. One of the medics shouted, kneeling beside Nathan's lifeless form. Rosa stood frozen, her stomach churning. The frantic beeping of medical equipment filled the silence as they began their assessments. She could feel every eye in the room flicking between Nathan and her, the maid, the invisible woman, with the knowledge that something was deeply wrong. Her heart raced, knowing she could not stay silent any longer. It's the bruise, she blurted out, words tumbling from her lips. On his neck. Someone did this to him. Gasps erupted as the paramedics looked up, shadows of concern etching their features. One of the medics, a tall man with a stern face, focused on Rosa. What bruise? The one shaped like a hand. I saw it right before he collapsed. Before she could say more, another medic shouted, we need to get him on oxygen now. He coded. The tension shifted again, spiraling into a new set of worries. Rosa's breath caught in her throat. If Nathan was coding, his life hung by a thread. Time dragged as the medics worked in practiced haste, battling against whatever terror had gripped Nathan's heart. Meanwhile, the guests murmured uncertainly, and panic tinged their voices. Who among them could have done something so dark? Whispers of accusations began to swirl through the crowd, glances exchanged, eyes narrowing with suspicion. Was it his father? The bratty cousin? A jealous friend? Someone pointed at Rosa. What do you know? You're just the maid. Rosa's pulse quickened, but she refused to back down. She had witnessed too much. This beautiful facade of wealth and prosperity was bleeding into a disturbing reality she had only begun to uncover. Suddenly, Nathan's body convulsed. The medics called out commands, their voices sharp. Charge to 200. Clear. The electrocardiogram's rhythm faltered, the sound sharp and cold. Rosa felt as though her own heart was stopping. The guests gasped collectively, eyes wide in horror as she clutched her chest, the truth twisting like a knife in her gut. Had someone truly tried to harm Nathan? Just when it seemed all hope was lost, Nathan's body jolted. With a deep gasp, he came back to life, blinking up at the chaos around him. Relief mixed with confusion flooded the room. But who could say for certain what had really happened? The medics rushed to stabilize him, but Rosa felt the knot in her stomach tighten. She glanced again at Nathan's neck, the mark still there, a dark omen of things left unspoken. As he struggled to sit up, confusion clouding his eyes, she caught his gaze. Rosa? He murmured, as if she were his anchor to the reality he was desperately trying to grasp. It's all right, Nathan. Just hold on. She urged, but her voice was trembling. And then, in a moment that felt stolen from a nightmare, she heard it, a whisper slicing through the murmurs of the crowd. They'll never let you leave, Nathan, a voice lingering in the air like smoke, punctuated by the worried stillness that followed. What did that even mean? The room felt like it was closing in around them, and as fear clawed at her chest, Rosa realized the night was far from over. The truth was just beginning to unravel. Just who had left that mark? And would any of them be safe in the aftermath of this chaos? Rosa's heart raced as Nathan blinked up at her, his eyes filled with fear and confusion. The mansion, once a symbol of opulence and joy, had morphed into a prison of suspicion. The crowd was still buzzing, whispers weaving a tapestry of doubt and intrigue. Who did this to you? She whispered, half hoping the question would reach him. But Nathan's gaze drifted, lost in a fog of disorientation. Just then, the paramedic leaned closer, scrutinizing Nathan's neck with a frown knitted deep on his brow. Can you tell me what happened before you collapsed? He pressed, his voice urgent yet steady. Nathan opened his mouth, but instead of words, he drew in a ragged breath, a look of sheer panic flooding his features. I don't remember, he stammered, his eyes darting toward the crowd, where faces twisted in varying degrees of shock and suspicion. Rosa felt the air shift. Someone was close. She scanned the crowd, her intuition screaming that danger lurked among the guests. Had someone truly thought they could snuff Nathan's life out? Get him back on oxygen. Another medic barked, and Rosa felt a fresh wave of urgency wash over her. The night had spiraled into chaos, and she knew she had to act before it was too late. Wait! She cried, reaching for the paramedic who had asked Nathan to recall the events. There was a bruise. Someone must have seen something. Her voice trembled but turned fierce as it echoed through the hall, but the murmurs grew louder, voices questioning her credibility. What does a maid know? One wealthy woman scoffed, her diamond-adorned fingers trembling as they clutched her designer purse. Silence. The paramedic shouted, silencing the crowd. Everyone, listen. We need to know if anyone has seen anything unusual. This could be critical. A moment passed, thick with tension, before the air shattered with a voice from the back. I saw something. All heads turned, each gaze searching for the source. A young man stepped forward, his nervous fingers twisting a napkin. I was on my way to the restroom when I saw Nathan in the hallway. He was arguing with someone. What do you mean? Rosa pressed, desperation in her voice. He looked scared, the young man continued, his eyes wide. I couldn't hear everything, but I saw someone shoulder him against the wall, a figure in a dark suit. The crowd erupted into a frenzy, shock rippling through the guests. The murmurs turned to accusations, and Rosa felt a chill creep down her spine. Someone had been here, someone willing to harm Nathan. Who? She demanded, locking her gaze on the young man. Who was it? I don't know, but I think I recognized the voice. He hesitated, looking over his shoulder as if to ensure no one was listening too closely. Fear glinted in his eyes. And it frightened me. That's not good enough. A wealthy woman shouted, throwing her hands up in frustration. We need names, not shadowy figures. This is madness. Rosa felt trapped, the chaos seeping into her bones. In that moment, Nathan gripped her wrist with surprising strength, his gaze piercing through the panic. Rosa, please, I remember something. The murmurs quieted in an instant, all eyes back on them. What is it? She urged, leaning in, hanging on to the edge of his words like a lifeline. It was about the will. They were angry. Someone was threatening me. Her heart dropped. The will? Money could drive people to do unspeakable things. Suddenly, it all made sense, the hidden motives swirling within the glittering walls of wealth, but before Nathan could elaborate, the lights flickered dramatically, sending the room into deep shadows. A sharp gasp broke the tense silence. Get everyone out. Someone shouted, panic radiating through the crowd. The guests surged toward the exits, frantic to escape the unknown. Rosa's stomach knotted even tighter as Nathan struggled to rise. Rosa. He insisted, his voice rising above the chaos. You have to find out who's behind this. You have to save me. As the lights dimmed further, shadows danced across the walls, revealing faces painted with fear and doubt. In that charged moment, Rosa felt both. Empowered and terrified. What lay ahead felt like a cliff's edge, and she had no choice but to jump. But if Nathan's words were true, who could they really trust in this mansion full of dark secrets? A sudden crash echoed through the hall, and all eyes turned to the entrance. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway, a chilling smile cutting through the darkness. Long time no see, Nathan, the figure purred. The stakes rose, and Rosa realized that the real nightmare had just begun. Who was this person, and what did they want? Would Nathan make it out alive? Rosa's breath caught in her throat as the pulse of dread quickened. They were teetering on the brink of a storm, and the truth was poised to strike. Rosa's heart pounded, each beat drowning in the chaos around her. The figure in the doorway stepped into the dim light, revealing a man with chiseled features and eyes that glinted like dark gems. A shiver raced down her spine. She had seen that face before, shadowed in memories she couldn't quite grasp. Nathan, the man drawled, his voice oozing with menace. You shouldn't have pushed your luck. The movement in the room halted, uncertainty blanketing the guests like a heavy fog. Nathan's grip on Rosa tightened, his face paling even further. She could see the flicker of recognition in his wide eyes, fear sharpening the angles of his features. Derek. Nathan murmured, the name slipping from his lips like a painful secret. Very perceptive, aren't you? Derek chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth. But I see your memory is a little shaky. Let us jog it, shall we? Before Rosa could process the shift in Nathan's expression, Derek sprang forward, his hand shooting out to grab Nathan by the collar. Rosa's instincts kicked in. She lunged, the adrenaline coursing through her veins as she shouted, "Get away from him!" Derek turned his gaze to her, his smile morphing into a menacing smirk. And who exactly are you? The hired help? Stop! A sharp voice cut through, and another figure emerged from the crowd. This time it was a woman, her luxurious gown flowing as she hurried to join them. Derek, let him go. This isn't the time. Rosa's mind raced. Who was she? And why did Derek seem so willing to listen? Catherine, this doesn't concern you, Derek snapped, his grip on Nathan unwavering. This is personal. It's personal to me too, Catherine insisted, her tone firm but laced with an edge of fear. Let him go, or I'll make sure you regret it. The tension in the room thickened, and Rosa felt as if the very air were charged with electric anticipation. Everyone was a prisoner to the unfolding drama, eyes darting between the trio. Making threats, are we? Derek tilted his head, clearly amused. How charming. But what will you do? Call for help? No one is coming. They all want to watch this play out. The crowd shifted nervously, whispers flooding the space as people clung to each other, their expressions ranging from shock to morbid curiosity. Rosa's heart thundered in her chest. She needed to act. She couldn't just stand by and let this happen. Nathan, what is he talking about? She implored, her voice rising above the commotion. Tell me what is going on. Nathan's gaze flickered between her and Derek, the struggle evident. Rosa, that was it, the final thread snapped. Derek yanked Nathan closer, teeth clenched as he hissed, you should have stayed in your place, Nathan. You had no idea how deep this goes. A heavy silence enveloped the room, everyone waiting, holding their breath in the charged space. But before Nathan could respond, a sharp crash echoed from the hallway, drawing everyone's attention. The double doors flung open, and a cascade of sirens blared outside. Rosa's heart sank. The police were arriving, but how would this end? Would Derek disappear into the night, leaving more questions than answers? Let him go now. Catherine cried, stepping forward, her confidence wavering slightly. This isn't going to end well for you. Derek's expression hardened, and for a heartbeat, it looked like he would comply. But then he turned to Rosa, a predatory gleam lighting his eyes. You think you can save him? This is just the beginning. He's in deeper water than you realize. But wait, he paused, a dangerous smile creeping onto his face. If you really want to help him, follow me. Rosa felt the weight of his words settle like stones in her stomach. Could she trust a man like him, or would it be a trap? As Derek's eyes locked with hers, something in her gut screamed. She could be stepping straight into the jaws of danger. Rosa, don't, Nathan warned, desperation flooding his voice. It's a trick. But danger beckoned. The clock was ticking down, and it felt like the threads of fate were pulling taut. With a deep breath, she made her choice. Would she follow Derek and risk it all for Nathan's truth? Or would she stand her ground, exposing the darkness that had swirled around them? Come with me, if you dare, Derek taunted, stepping back into the shadows, leaving the choice hanging in the air. The mansion felt like it was closing in, and the truth of Nathan's situation slipped further from her grasp as secrets loomed just out of sight. Rosa knew the path ahead would be fraught with peril, but she had to decide, would she chase after the truth at all costs, or let it slip away forever? Rosa's pulse raced in her ears, drowning out the chaos around her. The moment hung in the air, thick with tension. Derek's gaze, dark and unfathomable, swallowed her whole. She could feel Nathan's fear beside her, thick enough to cut through the silence. I can't just stand here. She thought, every heartbeat an urgency to save Nathan from Derek's grip. The unfolding scene felt surreal, as though it were happening in a movie, not in her life. Yet reality crashed hard against her consciousness. She was Mayor's maid, not a heroine. But could she really stand by and do nothing? Rosa. Nathan's voice broke through her thoughts, filled with terror. Please, don't do this. Against her better judgment, curiosity surged. Were Derek's words the promise of answers she sought? Or was she about to sacrifice them all? Derek stepped back into the shadows, his figure a mirage. The truth lies beyond this threshold, and only you can unlock it. He gestured to a dim hallway that flickered with the promise of hidden stories. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some eager, others horrified. Is she really going to follow him? Someone whispered from the rear. The word crazy danced on the lips of the curious and fearful alike. I have to go, she breathed under her breath, inching forward against the tide of self-doubt. But Nathan's voice broke through again, more urgent now. No, Rosa. Stay with me. His eyes were wide, pleading, and filled with a mix of anguish and fear that threatened to sink her. She hesitated, torn apart between her loyalty to him and the dark allure of Derek's revelation. What if this is all just a game for him? What if he's playing me for a fool? The thought ran like ice through her veins. Don't listen to Derek. He's a monster. Nathan's voice cracked, the panic layering each syllable, but what if not following Derek meant losing Nathan forever? The weight of that thought seared into her heart. She felt his tension, but she also felt the undeniable pull of the unknown, an intoxicating blend of dread and exhilaration. Your choice, Derek said, a mocking glint in his eyes, as if she were merely a spectator in his show. What will it be? Rosa took a step back, glancing over her shoulder at Nathan. She could see the fears etched into his face, the desperation that clawed at his features. The air was thick with the scent of polished wood and fear, and she struggled to breathe. But what if she could save him? What if the secrets Derek hid held the key to Nathan's salvation? I'm sorry, Nathan, Rosa whispered, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her chest. I have to understand. Before she could change her mind, she plunged into the shadows of the hallway, the darkness swallowing her whole. Each step felt like being pulled deeper into a whirlpool of unrelenting uncertainty. The dim light shifted, flickering, revealing more than just her path. It revealed something twisted and terrifying. As the world outside faded into silence, Derek turned, his expression a mask of cynicism until a glimpse of something darker flickered within. You'll wish you didn't come. She shuddered at the warning, but the thrill of the chase beckoned her, drawing her limbs forward like a moth to a flame. Her heart thudded heavily, echoing through the stillness as she stepped further into the darkness, where shadows danced with secrets and perhaps, her own doom awaited. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The choice she made would alter everything she knew. In that moment, she opened the door to a truth that could shatter hearts, and the real game was just beginning. What waited for her on the other side of the door? Would she uncover the secrets that bound Nathan and Derek together? Or would she unearth horrors she wasn't prepared to face? Shadows surged around her, alive and whispering in a language Rosa couldn't comprehend. Each step down the hallway felt like a heartbeat echoing within an empty chamber, pounding against the walls of her mind. There were no guiding lights here, only the flickering of dim bulbs overhead, casting long, quivering shadows that danced like ghosts across the cold, bare floor. The air was dense with a stale odor, something sweet yet decayed. It wrapped around her like a shroud, suffocating yet strangely intoxicating. Rosa pressed on, instinct screaming at her to turn back. Yet stolen glances of movement in the periphery drew her deeper in. Every nerve in her body tingled, fueling a mix of fear and curiosity. What was she going to find? Derek's footsteps echoed softly behind her, an unshakable presence lurking just out of sight. You're one step closer to the truth, he said, his voice smooth as silk but layered with menace. It's time to awaken. What did he mean by that? Was this some kind of twisted revelation, or a cruel trap designed to exploit her weaknesses? Rosa clenched her fists, shaking off feelings of dread as she moved further into the darkness. She had to uncover the truth that might help Nathan escape from Derek's hold. Suddenly, a door creaked open to her left. Rosa turned, heart racing. The faint light spilling from its threshold formed a narrow beam that illuminated the space just enough to reveal the starkness of the room. She could see outlines of documents haphazardly spread across the floor, and what looked like a journal on an old wooden table. Driven by instinct, she stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind her, isolating her in the flimsy sanctuary of light. The room smelled of mildew and dust, a stark contrast to the world outside. Shadows loomed in the corners, but she squared her shoulders and moved toward the table. Opening the journal cautiously, she found pages filled with scrawled notes and intricate diagrams. Most of it was illegible, but certain words jumped out at her: sacrifice, betrayal, inheritance. Each word stabbed at her with chilling clarity. Derek's insane, she murmured under her breath, thoughts racing. A mix of emotions clashed inside her, driving her mind in circles. Nathan's life could be hanging by a thread, and here she was, risking everything for secrets. Then a single page caught her eye. Dates, names, and a series of numbers intertwined on the paper. This didn't feel right. They felt like coordinates, like a road map to something dangerous. In the corner of her eye, Derek slinked into view, his gaze fixed on her, an unreadable expression playing across his face. Curiosity can be deadly, Rosa, he warned, each word coated in a layer of mockery. You're digging deeper than is safe. Panic rose in her throat. What are you hiding, Derek? What do you want with Nathan? His smile twisted into something sinister. Control. Remember that name. Control. Rosa's pulse quickened. Control? What did it mean? Was Nathan simply a pawn in his grand design? The fragments of the truth started to pull together, like pieces of a twisted puzzle, but the picture remained unclear. Suddenly, a thunderous noise echoed from outside the room, making the walls tremble. Rosa jumped, heart racing as she exchanged a frantic look with Derek. The moment was shattered by an ear-splitting scream, a voice unmistakably Nathan's. No. No. Let me go. The panic in his tone drove ice through Rosa's veins. No. She screamed, lunging toward the door, but Derek was faster, grasping her arm and yanking her back. Don't be foolish, Rosa. His grip was like iron, desperation swelling inside her as the sounds of Nathan's struggle filled her ears. With all her strength, she broke free, pushed the door open, and dashed into the darkness, the distant horrors propelling her forward. She needed to save Nathan, but at what cost? What awaited her in the chaos beyond? Would she find Nathan before it was too late, or had Derek woven traps so deep that escape was no longer an option? The shadows whispered secrets as she raced forward, hope mingling with terror. Rosa raced down the corridor, panic propelling her forward. The echo of Derek's voice faded into the shadows behind her, but Nathan's cries burned bright in her ears. Hold on. I'm coming. She shouted, her voice barely piercing through the suffocating stillness shrouding the building. The hallway seemed endless, twisting and turning like a maze designed to ensnare. Every breath felt labored, weighed down by fear. She skidded to a halt, sensing a door ahead, slightly ajar. The fluorescent light flickered menacingly, hinting at whatever nightmare awaited her inside. With no time to waste, she yanked the door open and stumbled into the room. An office cluttered. The desk, strewn with papers, seemed oblivious to the chaos outside. A heavy cabinet loomed against the wall, its doors cracked open just enough for an unsettling darkness to seep through. But there wasn't time to analyze her surroundings. Nathan's screams pierced the air again, more desperate this time. Please. No. She pushed herself toward the sound, heart hammering against her chest, propelling her into a frenzy. Rosa rifled through the papers on the desk, her eyes darting back and forth, searching for something, anything that would help. A phone. Clinging to it felt like the only way to muster any hope. With trembling fingers, she fumbled to dial for help, but the device was dead. Suddenly, another crash echoed through the air, making the room vibrate. A door slammed, and the silence lingering behind it was unmistakably sinister. Rosa jumped as the cabinet door creaked open wider, the shadows inside seeming to beckon her closer. No, she whispered, instinctively stepping backward. What if Nathan was back there, trapped? The suffocating uncertainty caged her in, urging her to confront the darkness instead of running from it. Channeling her fear, she took a step toward the wardrobe, her hand grazing the handle. Just then, her phone buzzed violently, pulling her attention back. It was a text from Nathan, barely readable but filled with urgency. Rosa, I need you. She couldn't think. The options swirled chaotically in her mind, but she couldn't leave him. Rosa flung open the cabinet doors, ready to dive inside, but the sight that met her took her breath. Inside, there was a staircase spiraling down into obscurity. From the depths, a whisper crawled up, an eerie mix of despair and malice. Help me! It was Nathan's voice, trapped in an echoing chamber beneath the floors. She felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand tall. She had to go down. She had to find him. With barely a moment for thought, Rosa stumbled down the staircase, each step echoing like a drum in the silence. As she descended, the air grew colder, hanging heavily around her as shadows twisted and writhed against the walls. She could sense something lurking, watching her. Please. Nathan cried again, echoing. The plea consumed her with a surge of adrenaline, shoving her past her trepidation. The stairway opened into a vast, dimly lit space, where every sound reverberated unnaturally. Rosa. Nathan's voice grew louder, but the urgency was laced with terror. He was in there. Suddenly, a light flickered on the far side of the room. It illuminated a scene that made her stomach drop, a heavy metal chair bound with thick chains. Nathan was strapped down, his eyes wide with fear, glistening as they met hers. Nathan! She cried, rushing toward him, but she halted abruptly as a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall man with sharp features and an unsettling grin. Derek. Did you really think you could save him? He taunted, stepping closer, an air of triumph surrounding him. You've opened Pandora's box, Rosa. Now, everyone gets to see what happens when pawns try to play the game. Panic surged within her like a tidal wave as Rosa realized Derek didn't just want Nathan, he wanted to play with their lives like a twisted puppet master. Stop it. Let him go. The fire in her voice didn't reflect the chill that gripped her heart. Each flick of Derek's wrist sent a chill through her, as his intentions hung in the air like a noose. Too late, Derek said, his smile stretching unnaturally. The real question is, who will survive this game? As the shadows around him began to pulse and swirl, the weight of the truth crashed into Rosa like a rogue wave. With time slipping through her fingers, she knew she had to act before it was too late. Would she be able to forge a way out, or would Derek's dark plans seal their fates forever? The silence hung heavy, thick with foreboding, as Rosa clenched her fists, ready to fight through whatever nightmare awaited her. The tension was palpable. Her next move could change everything. Would she find a way to turn the tides against Derek, or would he trap them in a web of his own making? The stakes had never been higher, and there was only one way to find out. Rosa's heart raced, a drumbeat of terror intensifying with each passing moment. What do you want from us? She demanded, her voice trembling but defiant. Nathan whimpered behind her, and the sound sliced through the thick tension, igniting a raw fury within her. Derek laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. Think of it as a game, Rosa. A simple choice. He gestured dramatically to the darkened corners of the cavernous room, shadows flickering like reluctant flames. You can save him, or you can save yourself. But saving both? That's wishful thinking. Rosa couldn't let her resolve waver. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to escape this nightmare, but with Nathan bound and vulnerable, she stood her ground. I won't let you hurt him. Derek's grin widened. How noble, but what if I told you the clock is ticking? He pointed to a wall, where an ominous digital countdown began to flash. 3 minutes. Panic wormed its way through Rosa's mind. What happens in 3 minutes? Let us just say, the party starts then, he replied, his eyes gleaming with sadistic joy. But don't worry. You can still go save him. Rosa's eyes darted toward Nathan, who looked pale, the bindings around his wrists cutting into his skin. Nathan! She called, reaching for him, but Derek held out a hand, cutting her off. First, tell me where the money is. I need a little assurance that this game has a winner. Her brow furrowed. What money? I don't know what you're talking about. Derek rolled his eyes with exaggerated annoyance. Don't play coy. I know about the family ties. I know about the inheritance. All I need is a number. Just give me the safe code, and I'll consider letting your friend walk free. Rosa's breath caught in her throat. Fear entwined with confusion, but within her surged a fiery indignation. You know nothing about us. I won't trade my friend for money. Then let us see how much you value that call, Derek hissed, and he stepped closer to Nathan. He pointed a finger threateningly towards Nathan's temple. Tick-tock, Rosa. You're wasting time. A rush of emotion flooded Rosa, the choice lay heavy on her shoulders. A part of her screamed to protect Nathan, yet another whispered about the grave consequences of an impulsive action. She fought against it all, her determination reigniting like a spark in dry leaves. "If I give you the number, you let him go?" "Of course," Derek said, extending his arms in mock generosity. "It's crucial how you word it, though. I'm a man of my word, after all." Time slipped through her fingers, the countdown consuming her thoughts. She glanced at Nathan, whose wide eyes begged her for a chance, an escape. "Okay, fine." "The number is," her voice faltered as she recalled the code, every digit etched in her memory. But a sudden, deafening roar erupted from the depths of the shadows, drowning out her words. Derek froze, his joyous expression replaced by confusion. What the Rosa seized the moment, racing toward Nathan, her heart pounding in her chest as she lunged for the chains holding him prisoner. But Derek jerked to intercept her, his fist flying through the air. Instinctively, she ducked, adrenaline fueling her resolve as she fought against the weight of despair. "Hold on, Nathan. We're getting out of here." Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into strobing chaos. Shadows danced along the walls like phantoms, and the countdown continued, now at 1 minute. "Stop!" Derek bellowed, but his voice was lost amid the increasing clamor echoing from the staircase. A loud crash reverberated through the air, and the shadowy figures surged forward, monstrous and wild. Panic struck Derek as he stumbled back, the smugness of his earlier demeanor cracking. Rosa tore at the chains, desperation clawing at her. The weight of the moment crashed upon her like a wave, and she could feel time slipping further away. Suddenly, an icy blast swept through the room, disorienting them all. It knocked Derek off his feet, and Rosa seized the opportunity. She pulled at the chains with all her strength, but they were sturdy. Just then, a voice roared from the shadows. "Step away from him." Through the flickering chaos emerged a figure muscular and determined, a glint of fury in their eyes. It was Alex, the man who had worked for Nathan's family, and he was sprinting toward them, a weapon glinting in his hand. "Rosa! Grab Nathan!" In that critical moment, everything changed. Derek scrambled to regain control, but the tide had turned. As Alex charged forward, Rosa felt a surge of hope, but the countdown was still racing toward them, and the danger was far from over. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, she had to act fast. Could they escape in time, or would Derek's vicious game end everything? The room throbbed with uncertainty, and as the digital clock flashed 3-2, the question hung in the air: what was set to be unleashed? The shadows seemed to pulse with life, fueled by the chaos erupting around them. Rosa's heart was a wild beast in her chest, pounding out an erratic rhythm as the countdown loomed ominously. Alex barreled forward through the flickering darkness, every step a furious thunderclap of possibility, but Derek was scrambling to regain control. "Get away from him!" Alex shouted again, a fierce protectiveness etched on his face. Derek shot a panicked glance over his shoulder, his smile wiped away like chalk from a blackboard. The sudden fear transformed him into something desperate and dangerous. "You're too late, Alex." He spat, his fingers trembling dangerously near something tucked beneath his coat. "No!" Rosa cried, seeing the glint of metal. Her instincts screamed at her this wasn't just a game anymore. With a feral growl, Alex leaped towards Nathan, but Derek was quicker. In a fluid motion, he drew his weapon, aiming it at Nathan's head. The tension felt like a mere breath. The world around them held its breath, teetering on the edge of a monumental choice. "If you come any closer, I swear I'll pull this trigger," Derek threatened, his voice shaking slightly despite the bravado. Rosa's heart sank, a weight of despair pressing down on her. The stakes had never been higher. "Just let him go," she breathed, desperation lacing her words. But deep down, a cold knot of doubt tightened in her stomach. Derek was losing it. 2 seconds. Came the digital voice from the timer, an authoritative countdown marking their impending doom. Everything moved in disjointed slow motion. Alex halted, eyes wide, weighing risk against reward, while Rosa dared to inch closer, her body overtaken by raw courage. "Listen, Derek," she urged, channeling everything she had into her plea, "this isn't how it has to end. You're scaring yourself, too. This doesn't have to be the way." Derek's eyes flickered, uncertainty threading through them, but it only lasted a moment before he seethed. Shut up. You think your words can save him? Step back. Now. Alex shouted, raising his weapon, determined yet penetratingly aware of the fragile thread of life wavering beneath them. For an instant, time twisted, a dangerous silence enveloped the room, the air thick and suffocating. Life coiled with tension, and the countdown continued to tick away in painfully loud seconds. One before any of them could react, Derek stumbled, an unexpected shudder running through him. Unbeknownst to him, Nathan had been watching every move, gathering his own strength. The moment Derek turned his back, shifting all attention from Rosa and Alex, Nathan lunged forward, his wrists breaking free from the hastily tied bonds. No! Derek bellowed, spinning around, but the shout became a panicked gasp. The blazing fury ignited in Nathan's eyes as he tackled Derek to the ground, throwing the weapon aside. The gun clattered sharply against the stone floor, echoing amidst the chaos. With Derek pinned beneath Nathan's weight, Rosa finally rushed to him. Are you okay? She gasped, her hand brushing against his face, heart racing at the sight of him alive and fighting. Now! Nathan shouted, flipping Derek over and locking him in place. We need to get out before. The timer blared, a furious machine gun of beeps, amplifying the urgency in the room. They were out of time, and Rosa felt a gut-wrenching certainty that what was hidden in the shadows was about to come crashing into their world. What happens now? She screamed, adrenaline mixing with dread as the darkness seemed to gather strength, as if something wicked awaited them just beyond the flickering light. Nathan's eyes darted toward the shadows. We must go now. But the darkness stirred again, and with it came the realization that whatever followed was something they would never be prepared for. Just then, a deafening roar echoed through the chamber, and they froze. Rosa clung to Nathan, fear slicing through her thoughts, amplified by the shadows closing in, each moment thick with dread. What was unleashed from the abyss? As they braced themselves for the unknown, the world shuddered, leaving them grappling with a question that could alter everything they thought they knew. In a split second, the room erupted into chaos. The walls trembled, shadows slithered and whipped unstoic against the frantic light, and something terrifying surged from the depths. A monstrous figure lurked beyond, seemingly forged from their darkest fears. Run! Nathan shouted, his voice raw with urgency. With Derek still pinned, the darkness advanced like a tidal wave, ready to consume them all. Rosa didn't think, she acted. Grabbing Nathan's hand, she propelled them forward as the shadows closed in, a ghastly whisper wrapping around her throat. They darted toward the staircase, the heat of Derek's fury burning in their wake. Stop them! He roared, wriggling free, but the pulse of dread pounding in Rosa's chest drove her on. The time was ticking, but something else was racing against them now, the unknown. They stumbled up the stairway, the air thickening with fear. With every step, she swore she could feel the darkness gnawing at her heels. Where's Alex? She gasped, her thoughts scattered, she could hardly focus. We can't leave him. We'll come back for him. We have to go now. Nathan's grip tightened, urgency radiating from him like a desperate candle amid the encroaching storm. The moment they reached the second floor, a deafening crash echoed from the depths below as Alex's struggle reached a fever pitch. A flicker of anxiety twisted in Rosa's gut, but there was no turning back. Not now. Open the doors, Nathan. She urged, her voice a fraying thread as panic gnawed. You think that is going to save us? Nathan shot back, fury and fear colliding in his eyes. Yet he rushed to the nearest door, and with all his weight, wrenched it open. Light flooded the space, revealing an exit that felt like a breath of hope against the suffocating shadows. The night outside pulsed with stars, a daring contrast to the hellscape they'd been facing. But just as they made a move to escape, a scream cut through the night. No! Alex! Rosa screamed, eyes widening as she turned back toward the door, the moment freezing in her chest. Rosa! We have to go. Nathan pulled at her arm, an earnest fear dancing across his features as the shadows shimmered and loomed like restless spirits behind him. In a surge of determination, she broke free from Nathan's grasp, running back toward the entrance where the chaos echoed loudly. "I'm not leaving him," she shouted, urgency threading through her every move, but before she could double her resolve, the air thickened again, a presence heavy and palpable. Derek erupted from the darkness, mouth twisted in malevolent glee. "You really think you can escape?" He laughed, the sound ricocheting off the walls like punctuating gunfire. Rosa's heart thundered. In that moment, her mind pulled together the fragments surfacing. "Nathan!" she shouted again, her voice a lifeline. If she could reach him with one final thread, the journal. It had names. He's pulling strings from the shadows. Nathan's eyes flickered wide, realization dawning on him, sparking a new urgency. "We can't let him win," he shouted, and together they faced Derek, their fear cascading into courage. The force of his presence bore down on them, a well of sickening despair mounting. But they stood side by side, ready to confront the darkness once and for all. "You don't have to do this, Derek," Nathan called out, his voice fierce and unyielding. "This isn't your game to play anymore." Derek's smirk faltered, the sudden shift catching him from behind. "What do you know?" he sneered, but behind the bravado, cracks began to show. "Everything," Rosa declared, stepping closer with Nathan by her side. "We remember the past, the twisted legacies you tried to bind between us. You will not dictate our fate." The shadows seemed to flicker, pulsing as if in response to their rising strength. The air hung thick, the silence pressing down like heavy clouds. A clash of wills brewed. With an anguished shout, Rosa lunged toward Derek, unleashing every ounce of strength. The shadows screamed at her approach, swirling fiercely, but she pushed through, determined to confront this beast incarnate. "You will not hurt Nathan. You're done here." In that critical moment, power surged within her, her fears coalescing into a force of protective warmth, turning back to face what had haunted her. With a surprising explosion of energy, she connected with Derek, a whirlwind of determination slamming against his self-crafted facade. Derek's smug demeanor shattered. He staggered under the force, his eyes filling with disbelief. "No. You can't." The shadows howled in protest, but the light from outside entwined with Rosa's resolve, pushing forth like a protective barrier against the oncoming storm. The room trembled as the duality clashed, a surge of hope pushing against the suffocating darkness. With a desperate effort, Nathan joined her side, their combined energy igniting the room. "We are more than your twisted game," he exclaimed, hands raised. And with that, the darkness screamed, a piercing howl echoing as it pulled back, retreating under the burgeoning light like a fading nightmare. Everything crashed together, a tidal wave of sound erupting around them as the darkness faltered and Derek crumbled. With one final cry, the malevolent force shattered, and Derek was left exposed, a shell of the force he once wielded. The room shivered and pulsed as light enveloped them, bursting free. In a rush of wind, they tumbled outside into the soft night, breathless and alive. Rosa inhaled deeply, the cool air a stark contrast to the oppressive shadows. Somewhere, sirens wailed in the distance. Help was coming, tangible proof of their liberation. "Alex!" Rosa gasped, searching the surroundings as Nathan steadied her. "We have to find him." The mansion stood behind them like a giant corpse, shadows retreating, defeated. Their past had screamed and clawed, but they had embraced the truth, together. Nothing would keep them apart now. In the days that followed, the truth unraveled, exposing the dark legacies that swirled around them. Rosa and Nathan forged a legacy of their own, a promise of light overpowering the shadows. They faced the future as equals, stronger than before, ready to embrace whatever came next. And perhaps, through it all, they had found a new definition of family, one that lifted the burden of secrets, a bond forged through truth and love. They were free. So, if you're still with me, I need you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support is everything. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this explosive conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this finale. Your engagement means the world. Join the community now.